I'm going to take us through all the basics of Solar Fire. I want to tell you why it's my favorite software. It allows for all the basic things you need to do. In particular, it's excellent when it comes to animating charts and being able to go backwards and forwards in time. And it's excellent for pulling up very specific information. Like if I want to look at all the times Saturn formed any kind of angular aspect to my Venus throughout my entire life and for the next 50 years, I can pull up a list of that. If I want to look for all of the charts, and there's well over 1,000 or more charts in my database where Pluto is semi-square to the south node, I can pull that up. If I want to look at that just for certain categories, all the charts are in categories. So we have celebrities and famous people and infamous people. So if I want to use some kind of well-known example of someone who has a particular, very specific aspect, I can just pull it up very easily. It's great for teaching, it's great for study, lots of wonderful resources. So this is the interface that you get when you open up SolarFire. You have a list of calculated charts right here. This is where you have all of the settings, and I'll show you how to pull up more charts. I'm going to start with the setting because this is the first thing you see. You want to set your software so that you have the settings to your liking. The display point indicates how many points you want to display. So I have it set on basic planets, which are just all of the basic planetary bodies. I have a category called Ari Moshe. Click on that. If I want to edit it, I can select points here. Let's say I want to add Kronos to my Ari Moshe list. If I want to deselect Kronos, I go in there and I just click it again. These are like what I pull up when I do a session. It's got the asteroids and all that stuff. Save. But when I teach a class, I tend to just keep it super simple with the planets as well as Chiron and of course the nodes. So down here we have the aspect set. Which aspects do I want to include? Actually, when I teach, more often than not, I will click on none right here because I don't like seeing all the lines. I actually, when I give sessions, I don't have any aspects up there, just how my mind works. I like to count them visually and see them. It's kind of like the difference between like driving with, your phone on with your maps or just like looking at the road. It's kind of how I feel about it. But I often will put on the standard for some of my classes and it's preferred for a lot of students. And that's just all the basic aspects. You can program the aspects you want. Let's go here for a moment. You get to decide which aspects are included in that, right? So you click there. If you want to enable it, you enable it. And let's say we want to enable the quintile. And that's a 72-degree orb. How many degrees applying? What's the 72-degree elongation? How many degrees are applying? How many are separating? In general, the default for this program is all aspects, I think, will give more degrees for applying and less degrees for separating. I'm going to disable it and save. Now, aspected points. Which points do you want to aspect? You can indicate, hey, I want to aspect everything in my chart, but I don't want to aspect that moon. So, you can edit that. Basically, select the points here that you want to be unselected, or if you want to add a point. If you want, I really want, I want Eris to be aspected, put that in there. Or if you don't want, aspects to your midheaven or descendant, for example, a lot of people will exclude that. All right. So, and these are other things, Arabic parts, Arabic aspects. These are things that I don't use. Fixed stars you can program into this and all kinds of things. When it comes to all of that, the extra points won't be shown in your wheel. I actually have an extra video already on YouTube for how to create what's called extra ring points. There's basically a bunch of points or asteroids or stars on the outer wheel. And maybe I'll show you that later if you want to, but I have a whole instructional video around that already. And that's kind of more of an advanced technique for those that work with those points. The next thing is on this column here, we have all the basic chart settings. So you can click on all of these, but they're also all indicated in this menu. Zodiac is tropical. Okay, this right here is just if you're doing sidereal. If you're doing sidereal, which I don't work with, There are all kinds of particular possibilities for that. So I have it on Siddhartha. What kind of houses do I want to use? Well, I'm using porphyry. That's my default. These are all just more things to look at. Calculation, this is what I want to look at. True node is what I use. That's the only one that's important for me in terms of what I work with. Okay. All of these others, again, just look through them. They're just more details. A lot of it has to do with how the menu is organized and things like that. So once you get that all set up, you'll have, in my case, tropical astrology. I got all the planets and the aspects and how I want it to appear, which aspects I want included, and I'm working with a porphyry house system. So you go here, cast a new chart. If you do now, it's going to cast for this present moment. Why is it in India? Because that was the last chart that I had up. So actually, let me show you something. Let me go back to Zodiac, and I want to go to Places. Sonoma set as default, okay? So that'll make the next time I open up this program, the chart that automatically pulls up will be in Sonoma. In this case, it's going to continue with whatever the last chart was on the menu. So I'm adding in Sonoma manually. Okay. So that's how you create a new chart. If I want to put a person's name in, I'll put their name in, their time, date, location, all that kind of stuff. You can indicate whether it's an event or a person, right? Source rating, by the way, I tend to ignore it, but it's useful in terms of what's the source of this person's birth data. So there's a whole thing called the Rodden rating system, which will grade. AA is the best, apparently. A is from memory, B is biography, etc. It's important to look at that when you pull up charts online to actually see what the rating is. You know, a lot of people will put charts out, but it's like, yeah, I guessed at it. And so we want to make sure we're accurate when we do things like that. Okay. Let's go here. So I pulled up a particular chart, and I'll delete this one. You can just highlight it and push delete. Now I want to edit it. I want specific parameters for this chart. Instead of doing a porphyry house system, I want to make it 0 Aries, which means the houses will conform to Aries on the ascendant. You can also do, you know, sun on the first or moon on the first. There are different reasons why someone might do that. When the birth time is unknown, a lot of people will put the sun on the ascendant. When I'm teaching or making a video, I'll program it to have Aries on the ascendant. Obviously, if I'm teaching, the houses won't be relevant if I'm talking about transits, because everyone in different parts of the world, depending on when they're listening, will have different houses. So I'd like to keep it super generic where all the houses and signs correlate with each other. If you want to see the chart, double click it, and it just pulls up the chart. Once the chart is up, there are lots of fun things that you can do. Redraw is what you do if you change a setting in the menu, and then you want to see it appear, and you change that setting once you've already put the chart up. Then you want to refresh the page and see those changes. Rectify, right here. This is rectification. Say you're working with someone and you're trying to determine their actual birth time. You would work with, you know, changing the time or the angles, etc. You can save it to your computer. You can pull up all kinds of reports, transits, all of that kind of stuff. Here's what I work with the most, which is the wheel style. I have basic style. Here's another style. Can you see the window that I'm pulling up here with all the different styles? Nod your head if you can. Yeah, okay, good. Different style. When it comes to the uni wheels, the bi wheels that I was talking about, the extra ring points, I'll use one of these styles when pulling up my planetary nodes, which is what I use as my extra ring points. But for the general, and that's what I look at most of the time, or sometimes when I'm giving readings, but when I'm teaching, I'll just keep it super simple, like this. There are also some designs that are pedagogically helpful where, like this, you have the zodiac overlaid on top, right? So you see when the sign begins, then also all of the degrees. That's helpful if, let's say, you're not looking at a 0 Aries chart. You can kind of see where each sign begins within the houses. The next thing that's really essential is called animation. There are two ways to get to the animation. Right here is the quick way. You click this button. Here's the animation. When I had my other chart up earlier, there's also a button you can click called animation, and it'll animate that chart. When you animate a regular chart, what it does is it shifts the format to one that you can then manipulate in time. So here's a clock, which is moving, right? If you watch really slowly, this clock right now is, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, but you can also animate it. I want to move this by week. Now, since I have an Aries ascendant, I fixed it there. You're not going to see anything move other than the planets. Let's say, I want to see, when does Mercury enter Capricorn? That's 1 week, 2 weeks. Oh, already went back. So I'm going to go back a week, and I'm going to start moving a day. 1 week and 1 day, 1 week and 2 days. Looks like on the second day, and then I'm going to move it hours. 1 week, 2 days, and 6, 7, 8-ish hours. Just around then, Mercury enters Capricorn. I can go into minutes and go back and get the exact, etc. There you go. So of course, this is great for being able to track anything in time. And I can go months ahead of time. I can go months back of time. And let me show you something really fun. So I'm going to stop sharing this and bring us back to the regular screen. Let's go back to where you can determine which planets you want to use. Let's say we want to use just 2 planets. Let's say I want to look at the Sun and Mars. Let me make sure it's just Sun and Mars. Yeah. I'm going to select that. Okay, so you're only going to see the Sun and Mars. Now, I'm going to go back to animate. And this is very useful. I did this when I taught my retrograde class series, where I actually showed the relationship between each planet and the Sun and how it moved from direct to retrograde. So let's actually go back to when they were last conjunct. Getting there. There we go. 24 degrees Scorpio, okay? That was in November of 2023. Somewhere, or 24 degrees, something around then. Let's just watch what happens month by month, okay? Mars is a 2-year cycle, so in general, we're going to find the Sun moving quicker from a geocentric point of view. All right, they're separating further in time. These are the aspects manifesting that I have charted. Now, as they're getting closer to the opposition, watch what happens to Mars. It goes retrograde. And then at the height of that retrograde is actually when they're in opposition. Now, as the Sun moves back and they begin closing the cycle, Mars will eventually go direct again. And you keep on going, and they eventually join up again about 2 years later, right? They were together in November of 2023, and just 2 years and a couple months later, they are together again. So that's a really cool way of tracking very specific planetary movements. I mean, you can do the Sun and any planet and have a real clear, direct sense of its retrograde and direct motions. You could also look at the relationship between any 2 planets. You can look at Pluto and Neptune and track what have the Pluto and Neptune phases been over the last 500 years, things like that. And I've done that before. It's really fascinating because for us living right now, we're all used to Pluto and Neptune being somewhere within, between 50 and 60 degrees from each other. But, they were conjunct in the late 1800s, and they're going to be squaring each other, later on in our life, in a couple decades, I think. So it's just really cool to track these larger planetary motions. And of course, that gives us a broader sense of collective themes on the planet and things like that. So that's one of the most useful functions that I use all the time. Let me show you bi-wheel. That's a very important thing to pull up. Bi-wheels are, of course, very important when it comes to looking at transits to a person's chart. Also when looking at synastry. So I'm going to change this back to a porphyry. And I'm going to add all the regular points that I tend to use. Basic planets. There we go. Okay. So to go to bi-wheel, you need to have 2 charts up. So I'm just going to create another chart of made up person that was born July 2nd, 1918. Okay. Let's look at the synastry between this person and this date. This is basically looking at the transits for this person. There are 2 ways to do this. You can go into view, click bi-wheel, or you highlight the charts and you go here on this icon, click bi-wheel. So it automatically defaulted to putting the transits in the middle, and I don't want that. I want that person in the middle. So I'm going to go swap, and it puts that person in the middle. So this is like a person, you know, I bet someone exists born this day that's still alive today. And how wonderful. Mercury is right on their north node. So this is a great way of looking at transits. And of course, you can animate. If you click animate, I know that if I do that, the screen share will stop. But if you click animate, this outer wheel becomes movable. And you could actually move the transits back and forward around this person's natal chart or around the event chart, which is a super cool. Now, you can also do a tri-wheel. It's the same principle. You know, pull up another chart. I'll put mine in there. So now I'm going to do a tri-wheel. I'm going to highlight all of them. And click up in the menu, tri-wheel. So normally I would have like natal in the center, and then around that transit, and then progressions would be like the last one that I would look at. You could also do a quadra wheel. You know, I've done that also with like synastry and then composite chart relative to the 2 individual natal charts, things like that. Sometimes it's useful, but I find it easier to just look at them individually because it's a lot for my mind to orient to. The next thing that I want to share with you is one of the most exciting features that I love about Solarify. I'm actually really curious to know if AstroGold for Mac has this. That'd be good for me to know. This is a way to pull up information about any chart in any way at all. So let's start with this. I'm going to pick a chart. Let's make it the made up person. Okay, I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go to dynamic, transits and progressions. Let's say I want to look at all of the transits to a particular planet of this made up person. Okay, so which transits do I want to look at? I want to look at Mars transits. Let me just edit it to make sure it's only Mars. Okay, that's only Mars. Sometimes I forget to I add pieces and I don't change it to select. Okay, I'm looking at all the Mars transits. And what's the radix? The radix is the points that I'm looking at the transiting to. So I want to look at all of the transiting Mars to this person's Jupiter. Let's make sure it's just Jupiter. Okay. Which transits? Sure, standard aspects. Now, I'm going to define the parameters. I want to know for the first 7 years of their life. All right, so this person was born July 2nd, 1918. For the first 7 years of their life, I want to see all of the aspects from Mars to Jupiter. In fact, that'll be a lot. So I'm going to simplify it just for our purposes. And I'm going to say first harmonic. First harmonic is another way of saying conjunction. All right, so we're going to look at all of the conjunctions between Mars and Jupiter for the first 7 years of this person's life. Click view. Do you see that little list right there? So we have position 1 is Mars at 27 degrees, transiting Mars rather at 27 degrees, conjunct natal Jupiter at 27 degrees. You highlight any one of them and you click view chart. There you go. It immediately pulls up the natal chart with that exact transit. So we're going to find transiting Mars right there on this person's Jupiter. And that's it. You can do that with all kinds of things, and it gets really fun. So let's share this again. Go back to chart options, sorry, dynamics, transits, and progressions. You can look at house ingress, sign ingress. You can look with progressions and say I want to put up a progress chart, which I'll show you in a moment. Actually, let's do that right now. Let's create progressions. Let's look up made up person secondary progressions. You click right here for progressions. You want to pull up the progressions, let's say for right now, you click now. If you want to see the progressions for any particular date in time, you put in that date. Apply, and then okay. It puts it right here. When you push apply and okay, it does it twice. So you have to only do it once. Here's the progress chart for this person right now. Their progress ascendant 18 degrees Sag, progress moon is Pisces, progress Libra sun. Okay. So let's go back to the dynamics. I want to check out progression. So I'm going to unclick transits to radix. Click on this person. I guess you don't need progressions up in the box. So progressions to progress. Yeah, it's going to calculate it on its own. Okay, so I want to see the progressions of the sun and moon. So I'm going to click sun and moon and standard. And I want to see, this is going to give you all of the aspects between the sun and moon. In fact, I don't even want the aspect. I just want the 8 phases. I want to see, I'm pretty sure I programmed it in there. There are 8 phases. This is going to give you where the sun and moon enter any of the 8 phases. So squares, conjunctions, oppositions, sesquiquadrans, and semi-squares. Okay. Progress sun and moon will have a 30-year cycle. They'll move through all 8 of those. Let's just, what the heck? Let's just look at it from now until, from their birthday until today. So how old are they now? They're like 105. Let's just say 105 years. Okay, it should give you all of the progressions of the 8 phases for the sun and moon for that entire life. Let's check it out. There we go. Sun and moon, sun in position 1, moon in position 2. It even tells you how old they were. So let's see where we're at right now. Oh yeah, I only calculated it. It didn't give you anything beyond the square in 2020 because it'll take a little more time before they get into that next aspect. So the next aspect would be a sesquiquadrant. But we have the sun right now, the moon right now at 19 Capricorn and the sun at 19 Libra. So they're in a last quarter phase. And very soon, they're going to enter into the balsamic phase. So again, you can click on that. It'll show you the chart. It'll pull it up right there. This is where their progressions are. And if I want to create a bi-wheel, I can go back to the main menu and make that a bi-wheel with their natal chart. So that's one of the coolest features. It's been so incredibly helpful for me to do things like that. Again, the number of things that are useful is just tracking events in my own life and looking back in history or being able to pull it up for a client or any kind of class that I'm doing. Tracking any particular astrological event that's happened to any natal chart or event chart throughout time. Incredibly useful. The other really cool thing that I've actually never done before, but I want to start doing it because it's super cool. And I literally only just found it today while I was like looking through my software. There are always more gems to find and more like a super cool thing that I've never thought about before. So this is search for charts. You click that binocular thing over here. This is fascinating to me. Okay. You can create the conditions for what particular signatures in the chart you want to find. You can just do it simple, like let's just say in sign, right? You want to find any chart you have in your database, business or all of your charts or selected charts, right? Like let's say I want to do all, right? Or selected chart files would be like, those in the entertainment industry. Solar Fire kind of comes with existing well-known charts in their own categories in addition to whatever you'll add to it. So you can I want to see everyone with the North Node in Taurus. So you could, you can do that. I'll clear what I have over here. North Node in Taurus, add. But I want more. I want to find the North Node in Taurus, and I want, let's say here, aspect. I want North Node in a conjunction with Venus. I'm going to add that. Okay. And this is like an and or situation. So right now it's find. And if you want to make it or, you highlight it and you, you highlight one of them and you make it this, right? That'll make it or. Click it again, it's and. So that creates a condition where it's both North Node in Taurus and North Node conjunct Venus. So I'm looking for people with a North Node conjunct Venus in Taurus. And that's like, square Pluto. And you'll find a few charts where you'll have that. I'm not going to pull up because it'll probably reveal a lot of client charts. But I was thinking earlier, I have Pluto semi-square my south node and sesquiquadrate my north node, which is a very particular aspect. And I thought, oh, let's find out who else has that. And I pulled it up, and again, I'm not going to pull it up because I'm poor at categorizing. So I've saved personal client charts in like all kinds of categories. I'm just lazy when it comes to that. I just like search for their name and it comes up. So even if I like go to like my entertainment category, it'll like show people's charts that I've worked with, and I don't want to do that. So that's like a really cool feature that I'm super excited about that I will be playing with at some point. I think there's a couple small things that I'll share with you. You click right here and you can pull up eclipse charts. Here's the range. And you determine, obviously there are no eclipses between October 1st, 2020. Oh, there are. Yeah, no, there are. October 1st, 2020 to December 31st. So you do your start search, and it'll show you all of the eclipses and what kind of eclipse it was. And if you click on it, once again, it'll bring it to your main menu and you can just pull it up. So that's really cool for pulling up eclipse charts. This is, let's see, you can also go up here, back to chart. If you want to search for return and ingress, like this is for like a solar return, right? I want to see my solar return chart. It'll either go to the nearest or current, which is the one I'm in right now, or the next. If I do nearest, it'll go back to December when I was born. If I go next, it'll go back to my next birthday in 2024. Otherwise, it'll go to the one that I had a month ago. You could also do a lunar return and all kinds of other things. Here's one more thing I'll do. Let's do my synastry with meetup person. Sorry, not synastry, but composite. I've already showed you how to do a synastry, and that's just a bi-wheel. And you can easily swap back and forth whoever you want to be in the middle. But to do composite, you highlight, go to chart, and do combined. And they're already highlighted. You just simply click OK. These are different options. I use the composite midpoint method. There are other kinds of ways of doing composite charts. Click OK, and it's right there. So if you click on it, you'll see it. So this is my composite chart with this person. Oh, the nodes are right on my ascendant descendant too. That's pretty cool. I'm sure there's an actual person out there thinking of me right now. You can do astrocartography. What's that?
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
You had that you said you added a feature with the 8 phases.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've programmed in? It's not actually on there? And do you
Good
have to
question.
program
Let me
in a
show
lot of
you.
different things that you want to do, or is there a
You
lot
can
of stuff?
create whatever you want. So go back here. This is the aspect selection. You click on this. There are many that are already included, but I probably created that myself. You just go to, if you want to create, you just do create and you create a new folder. And when you do that, it'll take you to this. And you get to include what you want. So let's do that right now. Let's just create new folder. Just trines and inconjuncts. I'm certain there's no folder that is just trines and inconjuncts. Okay. So I'm gonna disable everything that isn't a trine or an inconjunct. I could probably disable many. Yeah, I could disable many at the same time. Oh, here's the inconjunct right there. That's it. Disable all of those septiles. The contraparallels. Okay. And that's it. If I click on the triangle, again, I can determine it, the orb. Same with the in conjunct. Okay, save and select. And that's it. Now it'll show you all the progressions between the sun and moon that are trine and in conjunct for 105 years. So you can create anything you want to create. So yeah, the last thing I'll just share with you is we have over here astrocartography. I don't really use that, but it's there. And you can pull up lines and all kinds of cool stuff for looking at astrocartography in different parts of the world. All right. Anyone have any other questions? Angela.
Hi Ari, just a quick one. When would you necessarily use a bi-wheel for synastry or composite chart when looking at, I guess, two people?
Okay.
What would the difference be? Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's just the difference between synastry is you're always going to have a bi-wheel for synastry. And the bi-wheel for synastry allows you to simply see where person A's planets falls on person B's planets. So when I pull up a bi-wheel between me and this person, we have Mars conjunction, my Jupiter's on their north node. I have Mercury, Neptune opposite their Jupiter. Right? Synastry, the relationship between one person's planets and the other person's planets. The composite chart is just looking at the midpoint between each person's planets. So when I highlight the two and I go to combined, it'll show me the midpoint chart right there between me and that person. And their practical use is really just that's a matter of understanding how to use synastry and composite work in a session. But they both have their own function in terms of understanding the evolutionary purpose or meaning of a relationship and what's intended between two souls. And also like what the kind of dynamics of the past that are being brought into this life. Composite's particularly good for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'll say now for those that don't know, I am an affiliate of Solar Fire. So if you do want to purchase this, the code AMW15 will give you 15% off, and I will also get some commissions for that. And I'm going to put that information in the video description as well. You can also change the background. I've never done that, but I see people with like really stellar backgrounds and things like that. I'm pretty content with this background. You could also program it where you have like your own signature, like courtesy of Joe Schmo, evolutionary astrologer, and things like that. When you save a chart, you'd want to go back to the chart settings and change it back to your standard aspects. If you want to copy send, you click on this. You can save the format, okay? But you can also change how it looks. Like this is the style. When you click this button right here, it changes the format. I like this is really neat and tidy, and I use this in like my newsletters, this format usually. And then you copy send, it'll save it in that format at whatever output file style that you want. Okay, I think that completes the essence of this tutorial. If there are no questions here, then thank you for joining me.
Bye-bye. Thank you.